Hare Krishna, dear devotees, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Today we shall continue with this divine book, Light of the Bhagavata, by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. I shall start with chapter 8 and continue till the end of chapter 11. Chapter 8. The colorful greenery of the newly grown grass, the seasonal flowers, the frogs' umbrellas, the butterflies, and the other variedness of the rainy season perfectly represents a well to do family absorbed in vanity over their personal assets. A rich man displays his opulence in various colorful ways. He has a good residential bungalow with sufficient property and a well trimmed garden. The bungalow is decorated with up to date furniture and carpets. There are motor cars with dazzling polish and a radio set receiving and broadcasting colorful news and melodious songs. All these captivate their proprietor as though he were in a dreamland of his own creation. When the same man was as dry as a fallow land and had none of these opulences, he was plain in behavior. But since obtaining all these material means of enjoyment, he has forgotten the principle that everything in the world comes and goes away like the changing seasons. The beautiful red fort and the Taj Mahal were built by Shah Jahan, who left the place long ago, and many others have also come and gone in the same place like seasonal flowers. Material assets are like seasonal flowers only. Either the flowers wither or the gardener himself lives. This is the law of nature. Therefore, if we want permanent life, knowledge, and bliss, we must seek them somewhere else, not in the changeable, temporary rainy season, which is flooded with so many varieties of pleasing sights that vanish when the season ends. Material manifestations of these things are but shadowy representations of reality. They are compared to mirages in the desert. In the desert, there is no water, but the foolish deer runs after illusory water in the desert to quench its thirsty heart. Water is not unreal, but the place where we seek it is misleading. The advancement of materialistic civilization is just like a mirage in the desert. The deer runs after water in the desert with full speed, and the illusion of the water moves ahead at the same speed as the foolish deer. Water is not false, but we must not seek it in the desert. A living entity, by his past experience, remembers the real happiness of his original spiritual existence. But since he has forgotten himself, he seeks spiritual or permanent happiness in matter, although this is impossible to achieve. A picturesque scene of a green paddy fields enleaves the heart of the poor agriculturist, but it brings gloom to the face of the capitalist who lives by exploiting the poor farmers. With good rains, the farmer's business in agriculture flourishes. Agriculture is the noblest profession. It makes society happy, wealthy, healthy, honest, and spiritually advanced for a better life after death. The community or the mercantile class of man take to this profession. In Bhagavad Gita, the Vaishyas are described as the natural agriculturists, the protectors of the cows, and the general traders. When Lord Sri Krishna incarnated himself at Vrindavan, he took pleasure in becoming a beloved son of such a Vaishya family. Nanda Maharaj was a big protector of cows, and Lord Sri Krishna, as the most beloved son of Nanda Maharaj, used to tend his father's animals in the neighboring forest. By his personal example, Lord Krishna wanted to teach us the value of protecting cows. Nanda Maharaj is said to have possessed the 900,000 cows at the time of Lord Sri Krishna, about 5,000 years ago. The tract of land known as Vrindavan was flooded with milk and butter. Therefore, God's gifted professions for mankind are agriculture and cow protection. Trade is meant only for transporting surplus produce to places where the produce is scanty. But when traders become too greedy and materialistic, they take to large scale commerce and industry and allure the poor agriculturists to unsanitary industrial towns with this false hope of earning more money. The industrialist and the capitalist do not want the farmer to remain at home satisfied with his agricultural produce. When the farmers are satisfied by luxuriant growth of food grains, the capitalist becomes gloomy at heart. But the real fact is that humanity must depend on agriculture and subsist on agricultural produce. No one can produce rice and wheat in big iron factories. The industrialist goes to the villages to purchase the food grains he is unable to produce in his factory. The poor agriculturist takes advances from the capitalist and sells his produce at a lower rate. Hence, when food grains are produced abundantly, the farmers become financially stronger, and thus the capitalists become more so at being unable to exploit them. Just as living entities attains a transcendently attractive form by rendering service to Lord Hari, similarly all the inhabitants of the land and the water assume beautiful forms by taking advantage of the newly fallen water. We have practical experience of this with our students in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Before becoming students, they were dirty looking, although they had naturally beautiful personal features. But due to having no information of Krishna consciousness, they appeared very dirty and wretched. So, since they have taken to Krishna consciousness, their health has improved, and by following the rules and regulations, their bodily luster has increased. When they are dressed with saffron colored cloth, with tilak on the foreheads and beads in their hands and on their necks, they look exactly as if they have come directly from Vaikunta. The residents of the water are the fish, frogs, and so on. And the residents of the land are the cows, deer, and so on. By constantly drinking and taking bath in the fresh rain water of the rainy season, the tired and parched animals are refreshed and their complexions become brilliant as their health is invigorated by the arrival of the new rain water. The lakes, the ponds, the rivers are cleansed and invigorated by the downpour of the new rainwater and thus become most beautiful. Similarly, a devotee of the Supreme Lord who take advantage of the spiritual and invigorating downpour of the transcendental descriptions of God found in Vedic literature finds his spiritual consciousness invigorated and refreshed. In this way, his spiritualized body becomes very beautiful. Chapter 11. In the rainy season, when the rivers swell and rush to the ocean, and as the wind blows the waves about, the ocean appears to be agitated. Similarly, if a person engaged in the mystic yoga process is not very well advanced in spiritual life, he can be affected by the modes of nature, and thus will be agitated by the sex impulse. A person fixed in spiritual knowledge will not be attracted by the allurement of material nature in the form of beautiful women and the sex pleasure enjoyed in their association. One, however, who is still immature in the cultivation of spiritual knowledge may be attracted at any moment by the illusion of temporary happiness, just as the ocean is agitated by the rushing rivers and blowing wind that occur during the rainy season. It is therefore very important to fix oneself at the lotus feet of a bona fide spiritual master who is representative of God, so that one will not be carried away by sex agitation. Thank you, devotees. Here we end the chapter 11th of the book. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.